I want to get into some energy issues that were announced this afternoon by the government. Joining me now, Sky News political contributor Chris Uhlmann. I want to start, if I can, first with that report out by Chris Bowen. It's the government's climate risk report. This tells us both, that those 2035 targets are not far away. Chris Bowen was actually asked about this today. Have a listen.
Have you received the advice from the Climate Change Authority on 2035?
Yes.
More on 2035.
You asked a question, I answered it, yes.
More on that question. When will we know all about
Soon.
it?
I received it on Friday afternoon. I'm working through it. I'm giving it due and proper regard. You won't be the first to know what my recommendation is. The Cabinet will be the first to know. You'll be the second to know.
So it got it Friday. It'll go to Cabinet, obviously, in the next day or so. We'll get them this week. I hope they're not washed out in the news cycle on Friday. But this was all about today, Chris, laying that scare campaign groundwork for what we both, I think, predict will be pretty radical numbers for this 2035 target.
Yeah, look, and what we know, Peter, is that they're not going to hit their 2030 numbers, so now we're going to have even more preposterous numbers. And as you say, this week is all completely orchestrated, released a scary report to try and drive people to the idea that we need to have the government's policy prescription. And looking at that report itself, it's essentially trying to model the future, and no one can model the future. So these are scenarios spread across different temperatures, 1.5, 2 and 3 degrees rise in temperature by the end of the century. That's like the PG version, the M version and the R-rated version. And all the big numbers that you're hearing from are from the R-rated version of this particular report. And so as you spread these things out over time, what you get is some fairly large numbers. But if you look at a change in the value of housing by 2050 of $611 billion, it says, in a $20 billion housing market, well, that actually isn't a particularly scary number when you look at it that way. What we do know is we're putting more people in harm's way because we're building in places that are high risk, and they're some of the issues that we need to address. Now, I'm not discounting that there is some change in the climate and that we are seeing it in different areas. It's just that what the government is trying to do now is to say that the numbers that it will produce at the end of this week will have some material effect on the numbers that it's produced today, and it simply won't. We're about 1% of global carbon emissions. Nothing we do will have any effect on the numbers that Chris Bowen produced today. And I'm of the view that the scary end of the numbers that he produced today probably aren't going to happen.
Well, few of the numbers have ever happened. I mean, they've been warning of climate sky falling in, Armageddon and everything else for probably about 40 years now. I mean, it started in the late 70s and it's gone into an absolute sort of cultish message in recent years. But every single time they get to 2020 or to 2030, to 2050, they keep pushing all these numbers of doom and gloom out. And what I noticed was really interesting today, Chris, go back to when Bjorn Lomborg, maybe 15 years ago, was saying we have to adapt to climate change because the climate has always changed. This is not new. This is about adaptation. Well, I heard a lot of adaptation talk today. Now, adaptation isn't billions and billions of subsidies. It isn't, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's smart solutions to something that has always happened, as I've said, in our history. But that's not what we're getting from the government because they want us to back-end massive industrial or de-industrial change to Australia.
And this is the point that I keep trying to make, Peter, and that is that we are having the wrong policy response to this problem. We should stay as wealthy as we possibly can and deal with the circumstances as they arrive. The government's response to this is to say that we need to decarbonise our electricity system at an extremely rapid pace, but not just our electricity system, all of our energy systems. This will cost us trillions of dollars. It will make the country weaker and the cost will fall hardest on the poor. That's my objection. I don't discount that there might be climate change and it may well be being driven mostly by human activity. But unfortunately, Australia can have very little control over that. What we can control is how we spend our money and whether or not we say wealthy. And what Chris Bowen is on the pathway to is putting us on a pathway to poverty. That is guaranteed. The price of electricity will rise. The price of energy will rise. Australia's productivity will fall as a result of everything that he is doing.
Right, let's talk about Newspoll. It reminded me when I saw the numbers come in last night of that adage, in politics, as bad as things are, they can always get worse. I mean, a 27 primary. Oh, look, to be fair, I'm less concerned about popular, unpopular, favourable, unfavourable for the leaders. I always drive down into the primary vote detail, and that's catastrophic, Chris. So is this a recoverable sort of blip, or do you think that the Liberal Party brand is in terminal decline?
Well, Peter, I think that these are both numbers that we can believe in, because this is exactly what it feels like. And yes, I think that the Liberal Party is in permanent, or a near permanent tailspin now. It is in terminal decline. And it's not just at a federal level. Look at the West, where we saw an extinction level event 2 elections ago, and then they got back to barely breathing in the last one. At South Australia, at the next election, I think that you can see a loss of more seats there. The Victorian Liberals are doing a fantastic job of trying to make the Allen government electable, and I think that they'll succeed in that. They are hopeless. Tasmania governs in near permanent chaos. New South Wales, of course, is under administration, and the warlords there want to breathe life back into their zombie warriors. The only place where the Liberal brand is doing any good at all is where it's essentially in partnership with the National Party, so in Queensland and in the Northern Territory. So yes, the Liberal Party would look to be in some kind of terminal decline, and I wonder if the next Liberal Prime Minister has been born yet.
Oh gosh, I thought you were going to say they're not even in the Parliament yet. I'd have to agree with you on that one, but not even born yet terrifies me. That shrewd point you made there about the partnership with the Nats in the NT, obviously in Queensland, that goes to my broader point that I often make here in the program, that the party to win on the right has to have conservative ballast. And if you look at the numbers that are coming out of Newspoll overnight, there has been a bleed of Conservatives away from the party. Now, when that has happened in the past, we have lost. Like, we cannot recover. I guess the new problem is that the party at the moment is led by a lot of moderates, and they've got the dominant voice inside the party room. And they are reacting, or some would say overreacting, to the loss of Teal seats, with an overcorrection now that is purging Conservatives out of the party. But if it loses its base, the Liberal Party cannot win. Do you think they understand the sheer numerics of this, Chris?
Yeah, look, I understand what drives some of this fear. Of course, what started first was the loss of Teal seats, which is essentially to the left of the party, and now it's got a problem on the right. So it's being torn apart on both sides. So it does need to make some kind of stand and work out what it actually stands for. And when we're talking about 27% of what's left, I think, a large part of that probably is a more conservative voter base. So if they tilt back to the left, they're likely to lose people on the right. So I'm not underestimating how difficult this is. I'm not writing policy for the Liberal Party, but I'll say this: if you don't make some decisions, take some risks, and plant your feet and make a stand, there is one sure thing: you will get blown over.
You're not wrong. I'll leave it there. It'll be a topic I'm sure we return to. Chris Uhlmann, thank you.